I found this question on Reddit. I have been struggling with a lust addiction for about 7 years now. It has been a vicious cycle of regret, shame, anxiety, and depression. I just can't seem to beat it. I'll go on a short streaks without doing it, then quickly fall back into this lustful sin. Each time I do it, I feel more and more distant from God. I have learned that I can't beat this on my own sheer willpower. I have to walk with God and choose God over all these temptations. I have been trying hard to quit, but sadly, I relapsed again today. Okay, so the first thing I want to point at is the vicious cycle of regret, shame, anxiety, and depression. These all speak about negative emotions. Negative emotions. It's very important to point this because emotions is what screws us over. It's not the action, it's not the temptation, it's not lack of willpower, or it's emotions. That is the real problem. When I help men to overcome lust, I always explain something that I call the legacy chain. Everything starts with a thought, with an idea, with a image in your mind, and that image leads to feelings. And those feelings can be emotions, desires, cravings, hopes, fears. So they're all feelings. Desire as well, because desire is a strong feeling to have something or to do something specific. And we make decisions based on feelings, not based on logic. We base our decisions on feelings. We do because we want to do those things, and then we justify it by logic. Then we make an excuse. An action comes from the decision, and many actions form a habit, but that's not for this case, not for this video. Yeah. So, like I said, emotions are the things that screws us over. And when it comes to lust, lust is a very strong and powerful escape mechanism because it fires the dopamine system. It gives a really good amount of curiosity and all those things. So it provides a very good ways of escape. Is it healthy? No. Is it godly? No. Is it helpful? No. But for that moment, with every like wrong action, like people go drinking if something bad happens, or they take other substances, there's something that we all do to escape the feelings, the emotions that we don't want to have. Because at the core of our psychology, we are wired to escape pain and pursue pleasure. I'm always proud when I draw this straight with a mouse. So yeah, we always avoid pain and pursue pleasure. We're not satisfied here. We always look for ways to get here. And when it comes to lust, your brain has learned that lust is a very good way to even temporarily escape negative emotions. It doesn't care about the logic, about if it's actually helpful, if it's healthy, if it's good, if it aligns with the heart. It doesn't care. Brain goes for fast, easy solutions. I can't think of the third one. And lust, in this case, all the PMO things, they all fall into that category. It's fast, easy, and accessible. Yeah, that's probably the third one that's good to mention. But we all do this to run away from negative emotions. There's a small dot. Yeah, there you go. Now it's perfect. So the problem is not temptation. The problem is not lust itself. It's the negative emotions. Yes, lust is the problem, and that's how negative emotions manifest themselves. That's how the brain learned to solve it. So at any given moment, you have like a bunch of screens playing. Like one is playing an image of the war, and it's like how it's gonna influence you. Another is playing the image of you maybe not having relationship that you want. Another is playing someone said something at church and you're sad about it. Another is playing like, will you have enough finances to pay the rent? And there's like different images that explain the future for you. And that's why I wrote here imagination. Not, I thought it's a highlight. Here's the highlight. That's why imagination is such an important key. Because every emotion comes from thoughts. Like you can see here. Thoughts come, uh, feelings come from thoughts. And those thoughts, when I say a burger, you don't think of the word burger. The thing that appears in your mind is not this word, it's the image of the burger, it's the visualized representation of the burger. It's the same with a dog. So these are all images that come in your mind. Another important psychological principle, maybe it's more neurological, is that when we imagine certain experiences, the chemicals in our brains that are responsible for certain emotions fire despite if that experience is real or is it imagined. So your brain doesn't care. It just doesn't it doesn't distinguish whether it's imagined or a really experienced situation in your life. It fires the same amount and the same emotions. So when you have these images, like for example, you will not find relationship in your life, it creates a certain specific feeling, like for example, hopelessness or fear or insecurity, or it depends on the person because it also depends on other because they're linked and they influence each other. So that's why it's not always the same thing for each person. But a thought of not finding a good relationship in your life can lead does lead to negative emotion. And that negative emotion, you're here, you want to escape it. And your brain says, oh, just use the lust as an escape. I didn't write lust. Use lust as an escape mechanism because it will help you to at least forget it for this short while. Because your brain goes for easy, fast, and easily accessible solutions. It doesn't care about what your heart thinks about lust. So that temporarily it gives the escape, but later it creates, like you just mentioned, a bunch of negative emotions. So to beat lust, and I'm just at this sentence, to beat lust, you shouldn't aim to stop the action. You shouldn't try to change your decisions. You should start by changing your emotions. And you do that by changing the way, or more specifically, what you imagine. A good way to do that is to ask yourself, how would you rather feel? Instead of now feeling, like you said now, since you just had a relapse, and you say sadly, so that means you feel emotion of sadness. So instead of feeling sad about relapsing now, what would you rather experience if anything was possible? And I would suggest joy because I don't know, I can't hear your answer now. So, and it's not joy because you relapsed. It's a joy because you're on a journey to overcome lust. So that shifts the emotional well-being. It disrupts the system that's been up to that point. So when you then think of joy, like you thought of burger or a dog, when you think of joy, you don't think of joy as a word, you think of an image of you experiencing joy. And since we're speaking about the context of lust, how does joy in the context of lust look like? Is when you overcome it. So now all these three are there. What if you imagine yourself rejoicing over overcoming lust? That creates a disruption in the old pattern, and you start feeling something positive amongst all those negative emotions. And this I noticed in my life, and I think you can also start noticing now, is that this gives hope. Like when there's a lot of negative and there's one positive or two positive, when it's, well, basically, when it's not just negative emotions and there's something positive to look forward to, it creates hope. And that hope starts to change another one. And then you're like, oh, I'm actually feeling even more hopeful because now there's two. And that's like, maybe this also gonna be solved in my life. Oh, but then if I don't have this issue, if I have joy in overcoming lust, and if I play this image in my mind, so it produces um, emotions of joy, because I'm playing yeah. What I mean is, if you play the image of your mind in your mind, if you imagine yourself being free from lust and rejoicing over that, what if your relationship can be solved, if that issue is no longer there? And then the more you solve those negative things by changing with the things that you would rather feel, that leads to another image image that creates another feeling, the more hope you will feel. And when all of these are changed, you start to feel content in a very healthy way. And contentment produces gratitude, as among all things. I'm now just improvising at this stage, but it creates even more positive emotions. So it starts to snowball into a place where when temptation comes, I'm gonna move this up to the graph we did here. When temptations come, you're no longer here. I move this again. You're no longer here. You're already here. So your brain doesn't need to solve a positive state of mind by escape, because you're already happy. What else is there to take? What else is there to change? And because your heart has been saying that lust is not really good, it becomes easier to fight temptations off, because temptations don't really have the advertising power to offer escape, because you're no longer in such a bad place. Your emotions are no longer making you feel miserable so that you would have to escape, because you're already there. You're rejoicing in your relationship with God, or at least imagining that, and it creates positive feelings. It disrupts the cycle, and the temptations lose power to influence you. I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, there is a email in the description. Feel free to ask more questions.